Boy, that sounds really good, doesn't it? Welcome to the Korg SV-2, brand new from Korg. Now, prior to this, of course, you know they had the SV-1, and by the way, SV stands for Stage Vintage. So all the vintage pianos that you can think of are built in here. Fender Rhodes, Suitcase, all that kind of stuff. It's all in here. And it does a great job reproducing those. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the SV-1. In the SV-1, the pianos that were built in were, let's see, I got a list here. Grand Piano 1 and 2, Mono Grand, Upright, piano slash strings, and piano slash pad. Now, what we got in here is a lot more. Now, we got some 4 major pianos in here. We have got Steinway, and we got Fazioli, and we've got Bosendorfer, and we've got Yamaha. They're all in here and they did a great job of it. So if you're a pianist and you're looking for something that's got great piano plus all your bread and butter sounds, organ and claves and some orchestral sounds and electric piano, this is for you. Now, as far as comparing this to the SV-1, a lot of improvements have been made. The polyphony on the SV-1 was only 88 notes. The polyphony here is 128, so vast improvement over there. Also, the SV-1 had 36 different voices. This has double that. You have 72. It's all intuitive. Once you get the hang of this, there is no menus here, just like on the SV-1. So no menus to distract. But I don't want to get off on that tangent. I just wanted to point out that when there's no menus, it's more like a musical instrument, an acoustic piano, and you just sit down and play. So yeah, it is great. Now, again, this still is one of the coolest looking boards on the planet. And that is great. Now, the key bed that's built into all the versions, whether it's 88 or 73 key, is Korg's RH3. That's their real weighted hammer action. It's graded, it's weighted, it feels great. It's Korg's finest. You'll also find that in the Kronos and in the Grand Stage that Korg offers. Now you've got 8 velocity curves. What I mean by velocity curves is touch settings, different touch. Do you like to play the piano hard or do you have a soft touch to it? Well, the way it is right now is what they call normal. Now I have a thing over here labeled touch, and if I touch that and it starts blinking, I can change my. If I'm over on 1, it's normal. 2, it's light, so I'm barely touching the board. So these are for people that have a light touch. And then there's the next lightest on 3, and the next lightest, and so on. When you get to 8, actually 7, when you get to 7, that's the hardest. So if you have a light touch, that's not going to work. If you have a heavy touch, that's what you want to pick. And if you go to 8, it's all the same. Whether you press it lightly or you bang on it, it's equal volume. For me, it depends on what song I'm playing, what mood I'm in, and all kinds of stuff. Generally, I try to keep it on 3. Other times, I'll move it over to 1, which is what they have for normal. The editor is a piece of software that you get for free from Korg, and it interacts with this, and you can get to so much more that's not here on the front panel. And that's where you create your splits and layers. Even though you can change the split point here with the board, you can't create splits and layers without using the editor, which is cool because the SV-1 didn't even have that capability at all. Overall tuning or concert pitch can be changed with this so that you can match a previously recorded track or any instrument in your band or orchestra, so you can tune this to anything. That is really cool too. Right. Now, also in the SV1, you had 8 favorites. So, whatever you had that you liked and you changed everything to the way you like it. Basically, you could save a snapshot of all the settings that were on the board for that particular voice that you altered, and you spent so hard getting it just right. You could save up to 8 of those. Well, now you can save up to 64. So that is a big improvement. Very much welcome because you got so much more that you could do with this board than you could with the SV1. Now, the reverb over here, and I'm going to get to all of these things, but the reverb is really cool. You can get some really good cinematic effects, including spatial effects, because they borrowed that reverb from the Kronos. Their top of the line overb is what they're using in the Kronos. Really cool. And of course, they've kept the 12AX7 vacuum tube in here. Now, if you're on the other side of the pond over in the UK, they call that a valve. Here, we call these tubes or vacuum tubes or electron tubes, whatever you want to call it. It's a real tube, it's a 12AX7, and the purpose of that is to warm everything up, give it that analog warmth to it. And of course, when you add distortion to it, it sounds more authentic, especially when you're comparing it with these older vintage units. Because not only does it replicate the vintage keyboards and everything, but the amps as well. The amplifiers, all of that stuff. And stomp boxes, it's got everything. Now, the knobs here, perfect size. They're not too small, they're not too big. Um, and they have kind of this channeling to them so that you can grab it without slipping or anything like that. Now, before I go through the front panel, let's go over the back panel. Now, starting here from the AC power and working our way this way, got the AC power for your AC mains. Then you've got your USB B. This is where you can hook it up to your computer. And then you've got 3 pedal inputs. They're all 1/4 inch. The one labeled pedal or for damper, that is for a Korg DS1 or DS2H, and that supports half damping. You have 2 other jacks there labeled 1 and 2. The one labeled 2 is for either an on-off pedal or a expression pedal, which is what I have plugged into mine right now is an expression pedal. And the one labeled number 1, that's strictly for an on-off pedal. Next to that, you've got your standard 5-pin DIN legacy MIDI in and out. And I can't tell you how welcome that is because so many keyboard manufacturers now seem to be leaving that out unless you buy the more expensive models. Then you've got your inputs, 1/4 inch inputs, so you can plug another keyboard in here or anything like that. So you've got your left and right, and then next to that, you've got your line outputs, standard left and right 1/4 inch for line, and then next to that, you've got XLR line outputs, which is really cool. So now you've got 2 sets of line outputs. Now the XLR ones obviously are balanced, so you can go a lot further. You can go about 50 feet with that, whereas with the standard 1/4 inch, you're not going to be able to go that far without picking up interference or losing some signal strength and so on and so forth. So you can take your 1/4 inch and route that to your amps and then take the XLR and route that to front of house or to your mixer or to a recording device or whatever. So it really helps with 2 sets of outs. Now, not shown on the front panel right here in the lower left on the front is a 1/4 inch stereo headphone jack. All right, now let's go over the front panel. It's broken down into sections: equalizer, pre-effects, amplifier, favorites, sound, modulation, and ambient. So starting from left to right, first we'll start by looking at this cool 12AX7 vacuum tube. And yeah, it is lit just like a vacuum tube is. You get that little orange glow on the inside, but what you're seeing here being lit up like it's on display is coming from an LED light in the back to make it look a little bit better. But it really is a functional, real 12AX7 vacuum tube. Master volume, self-explanatory. Equalizer section, basically you can turn it on or off, and you've got control of bass, mid-range, and treble. Now I should say on all of these knobs, they have another function here, which is basically a reset function. So in most cases, that's what it is. So if I'm playing something here and I want to increase the bass, but I liked it the way it was, and I don't remember where it was. So I just push the button, and it goes back to where it was when I started, the default value. So all of these function like that in most cases. There's other cases where they have a different kind of function. Now again, and when you go into the software editor, we have a lot more control. You do have a lot more control over the EQ other than just low, mid, and treble. And I'll get to another video that's going to cover all of that. It's going to be dedicated to the editor so that you can see. And by the way, talking about dedicated videos, you might want to check out this video I put together that demonstrates all 72 sounds on here. All 72 voices. So if you're saying I'm not doing enough demoing of the voices in this video, that is intentional because I have another video that demonstrates all 72, and you don't have to hear it from beginning to end. It's all indexed. So whatever sounds you want to hear, you just click on that. It's on my YouTube channel. There'll be a link, so you can go over there, click on whatever sounds you hear. It'll jump to that point in the video, and you'll hear what it sounds like. Now here's a glimpse of what that editor looks like. So you can see over here. And let me just jump over here for a second to effects. And you can see right here, this is the equalizer right here that I was talking about. So here you've got different frequencies that you can set. You can set the Q as well, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot you can do with this, and again, I'll get to that in a separate video. It deserves its own. All right, going on with the sections, and I mentioned that you can turn the EQ section on or off. Every section that you're in, there's an on-off switch, so you can turn the section on or off. The pre-effects, which is basically like your stomp boxes, stuff like that. I'm playing piano, so if I'm going to go and turn this on and go to the first one, red, and of course you can there's a treble boost, so you can make it sound like the music is coming through a telephone. There's a U vibe. And of course, this is for more like electric pianos. Right now I'm doing it on a regular piano. I should be doing it on an electric piano. And there's vibrato. And of course, you can control how much. Tremolo. Hear that? So you can control that too. And then there's the Vox Wah. Now I have an expression pedal down here, so I can do it by myself. There's the auto pedal too. So let's turn that off. Next, there's the amplifier section. So we can have it, let's turn that on. This is clean right now. I can adjust the drive. And again, this is utilizing that tube to keep it warm and clean. All right, then there's twin amp. And when you get to the amp section in the editor, there's so many things you can control. You just don't have that control here. So what you would do is set all that stuff up, save it as a favorite so you can call it up at your gig and do whatever you have to do to make the sound that you want. You can work on that in advance, and when you have your gig, just call it up. Very simple. All right. Then there's tweed. And of course, I probably should be using a different instrument to demonstrate this, but we're just going over this real quick. Then there's AC30. Boutique. And organ. Actually, let's go to organ for that. So, I mean, listen to these organs. These instruments sound so good. All right, so that's it for the amp section. All right, favorites. This functions as multiple different things. So obviously favorites is just one of the things that it functions as. You can save up to 64 different favorites. And again, by favorite, it's not just picking a sound and saving it. It's changing the sound, shaping it to the way you want, adding the effects you want, all that stuff, using the editor if you have to get more precise control over how you want to shape that sound overall, and then save it to a favorite. And that favorite basically saves a snapshot of everything that you've done. So when you recall it, you got it all back. Very, very cool. And favorites is just one of the things. There's a lot of other different things that you can do with this A through H and 1 through 8 and so on and so forth. So, okay, then you have the sound section. And there's a lot of stuff here. First of all, you've got 6 different categories. You've got EP1 and EP2, electric piano 1 and 2. You have piano 1, you have piano 2, you have the clavier and other. So for each of these, like electric piano 1, I've got 6 different voices or 6 different variations. And you'll see that this is red or orange, this LED. Now, if I press that, I get a different set of 1 through 6 variations. Completely different. So, 6 different categories, 6 different variations. That describes the SV-1, total of 36 sounds. But you press this, and now it goes from red to green. Now I've got another 6 variations per sound. So 72 altogether. Really cool. So again, go to that video that demonstrates all 72 sounds, and it is all indexed. You would just click on the sound you want to hear. It's over on my YouTube channel. It'll jump to that portion of the video so that you can hear it. But one thing I wanted to point out, since I'm a pianist, and this is a piano channel basically, the pianos here. Now again, from the SV-1 days where the pianos were pretty good back then, but they were kind of limited. And almost every manufacturer in the past 10 years has come out with new pianos, and those sound really good. Well, they killed it here. They really nailed it with pianos. You've got the four major manufacturers they're using here now. You got Steinway and Yamaha and Fazioli and Bosendorfer. Um, so you've got those all built in. Now that's the one thing I will go ahead and demo. So this is piano 1, and it's red. That is a German grand. And if I press to turn it green for the variation, it becomes a German classic. And of course, they can't come out and say Steinway or Yamaha or Bosendorf or anything like that because, copyrights and all that stuff. So, German, when you hear that, it's Steinway. All right, so let's go to the next one, and that is an Italian grand. And again, they can't say the brand. That's why they put Italian, which translates to Fazioli. So here's the Fazioli labeled Italian grand. And for a variation, it's the Italian Bright. All right, moving on to the next one. This is a Japanese grand, and again, they can't use the name, but Japan means Yamaha. So this is a Japanese grand or Yamaha grand. This has got to be one of my favorite pianos on this board. It works out really well for classic rock. And of course, the variation on that is a Japanese Bright. And here, how bright it is now. Alright, moving on. The next one is an Austrian Grand Bosendorfer. Variation, Austrian Classic. I get carried away sometimes, but yeah, the pianos here are really good. And you can even hear the pedal noise. I don't know if you can hear this. So just like on a real piano, on an acoustic, when you press the pianos, you hear the dampers lift up, and it creates the noise of the dampers lifting up and coming back down when you release the pedal. Okay, going on to 5. This is a Japanese upright. So Yamaha upright. Does sound like upright, doesn't it? Press for the variation and you've got an upright bright. It doesn't say which country or manufacturer, so. And let's see, the last one, German upright. And rock piano. Okay, so that was the 12 pianos in the Piano 1 category. Now let's go to the Piano 2 category. And the first thing that comes up is a German mono. So we got a Steinway mono. Excellent for cutting through the mix when you're in a band. Very expressive. Mono cuts through, so it really does the job for you. All right, so that was the variation. It should have been electric grand would be the first one. So always loved that electric grand. Next one, the Korg M1. You remember the M1? I mean, that set a whole movement almost. And Korg is the one, obviously, that made the M1. So here we are with a Korg, and you've got the real thing in this. Cool. So if you always wanted an M1, always loved that sound, now you have it. And the variation of that is another Korg classic, the Korg SG-1D. All right, so I don't think I'm going to go through all these. Oh, Electra, that was another good one. I mean, you could spend hours just pick a sound, and it's one of those retro vintage sounds, and it sounds so good. It's just like you were there in the old days. Fender Rhodes sounds just like it. Suitcase, Mark 1, I mean, it all sounds just like it. Honky tonk. All right. Tack. Piano and strings. This is a layer. Now, one thing about layers here. Listen to this. You got a piano and strings. You hear them both, right? Well, I know there's a piano and strings there, but the strings, maybe I want that a little bit louder. So what I can do here is I can hold down the function button until it blinks. And look at the equalizer section now. You can have up to 3 instruments in a layer. So right now these are blinking. And each one of these controls whatever instrument is assigned to this knob. So I've turned that mid-range up, which is not mid-range, it's basically instrument 2. So now I have more string. And if I want even less piano, so that's a cool feature right there. And while I'm demonstrating that kind of stuff, let me go to the other section. All right, this is what I want to show you. So this is where a sample of a split comes in. So listen to this. Right there, it switches to a different instrument. Well, let's say I don't want the split point there. I want it an octave higher. Now I can do that. I can hold local off until it starts blinking, and then I pick my split key. Okay? Now, that's the new split point right there, just where I told it to be. Very cool. Now, as long as I'm on the other category over here, they got some really nice sounds here. All right, so moving on. Now the next section is modulation, and I think we went through part of this, but basically this is where you modulate the sound. So let's go ahead and go to an organ for that. Actually, I didn't show you the organs yet, but variation. And of course, you send this through all kinds of effects, and you know, the Leslie or the rotary, and you can do it slow and fast. And let's demonstrate that right now. That's slow, here's fast. And we can adjust the speed, make it slower. You can adjust the intensity, all kinds of stuff over here. All right, next one. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Let's go back to piano for a second. And the ambient section, this is where you do things like echo, delay, reverb, that kind of thing. So let's turn that on. Now the different kind of reverbs here. And again, this is borrowed from Korg's flagship, the Kronos, the overb that they use in that. This is a reverb that's labeled room. And of course, you can control the depth here. Next one is plate. It's a type of reverb. Then there's hall. That's the one I like to use. Like you're in a big concert hall, and I'm not even all the way up yet. I'm only at level 7. And then there's spring. Let's increase that. You hear that kind of a spring that's vibrating. This is a tape echo. You can do a lot of cool things with that. And then there's stereo delay. And you can actually set the tempo by tapping, if you want this kind of a tempo. You want a faster one? And you can adjust the depth. Now, let me turn that off. One thing that I wanted to point out about these knobs that I didn't do earlier is when you turn a knob, and you can feel a click every time that you move it, but you don't necessarily see the LED go from one number to the next on any of these. So if I want to increase bass, I'm turning this. I don't know if you can see this in that camera there. You hear that click? 2. There we go. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So every 6th one. So basically when you're turning this, you'll hear the clicks, and those are just smaller increments. And when you get to whatever the divisor is, every 6 clicks or every 10 clicks, that's when the next LED will light up. So basically you have more control than just what's lit up over here. Anyway, this is an overview of the Korg SV-2. We're going to do another video that's going to cover the editor, which is really cool because you can do so much more stuff with the editor that is beyond the capability of what you can just do with the panel here. Very, very, very cool stuff, and you will see that in the next video. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned more about this piano from it. Piano Man Chuck, peace out. Thanks for watching.